Sup guys, Steven here today, and today what I wanted to talk to you about is fucking engineering a la Airwaves. Now, the way that I'm going to introduce this is to take, I guess, the context of audio and specifically how it should evolve to create one swaggy ass fucking night, right? Say you're a fucking producer or composer or DJ and you're tasked to create the ambiance and essentially dictate the pace, rhythm, and energy throughout a whole given night, right? Let's say that your gig starts at 9 and you're going until 2, right? Now, what this means is, on some level, everything that you will be playing will not only be setting the frequency by which people will be moving through different states of mind, but it'll also be the influencer, or yeah, the influence that will essentially get them to make buying decisions, right? Like, so things pertaining to drinks or even appetizers, right? So I've always said that, like, if you think about it, life is like a fucking wave, right? Meaning it ebbs and it flows. But more importantly, or even better in this context, it's exactly like a fucking wave. Meaning what happens is, as the night progresses, essentially, there's this frequency at which we operate that is highly fucking determined by our overall energy reserves, if you want to put it that, right? Now, this is typically what it looks like, right? For a lot of venues where they don't have an actual intentional or conscientious understanding of this, this is literally the baseline or the root characteristic waveform that you see them essentially, if you want to put it, emanating or manifesting in their behavior, in the types of music that they play, in if you want, even the types of sales that they make, right? Or even in the vibe that they put out, and more importantly, how the audience is, if you want, feeling it, right? Like, basically how we experience the night, right? We tend to basically, this is, for example, someone having, you might be, say you're like a corporate worker, right? So maybe like 5 isn't actually the time when you end your day, because some people even use mixer events around 5 as a way to actually prolong or close or bring to fruition business that they've been essentially working on all day long, right? So they use it even as like a junction point to essentially kind of regroup, meet up with clients, etc., and just hash more shit out, right? And typically most corporate events go from like 5 to 8 or 5 to 9, some shit like that, right? And then you have like a brief, if you want to put it, a brief lull or a brief intercession between 8 and 9, where you kind of like go home, you kind of actually shower and then put on your night clothes before heading out, right? And then this is essentially the whole genesis or the idea of the pregame, right? Now, what that means is, if you're a fucking music, let's call it a music composer, right? Like, you have to actually factor all these realities into whatever it is that you're fucking doing. Meaning that you can't just be playing shit because you like the song or you think it's awesome, or it's like it's like the dopest playlist that you've ever made. Because honestly, you're not only just doing a disservice to yourself in terms of kind of truncating the ability for providing value to the people that is in front of you, but more importantly, you're also actually shortchanging yourself by not displaying your live performance ability, your live performance skills, the thing that actually make you unique and turn you from a fucking just commodity, like someone who just plays music from wherever, to an asset that not only aids in essentially serving the market, if you want to put it, marketing aspect of the venue in terms of raising the value of the entire environment, but also actively contributing to elements that would make a sale possible, right? So these are things that you should actually be thinking about because it sets you apart from just playing music, right? You're no longer just a commodity, but you're actually an asset, right? And the moment that you make that shift in terms of everything that you do, the fucking game changes because now that's where things like style really, really, really fucking shine. And they're actually like seen, like you can clearly see how one person going about DJing or disc jockeying or chopping, screwing something from another actually provides something that is unique and is clearly different than what someone else might be doing, right? So always keep this concept in mind of the wave. And so now to transition based on everything I say, let's lay the groundwork and also at the same time give fucking respect to the OGs, right? So basically, if you're not familiar, there's a super fucking swaggy ass company by the name of Real Social Dynamics. And the reason why I praise them a lot is because they essentially they're in the dating field, right? And what they did was essentially focus on dating, right? So how to attract women, how to close them in an intimate manner, and then how to essentially foster one's self and life elements to where they could essentially have the choice to keep someone in their life or even just kind of filter them out because they're not a viable long-term partner, right? Or a long-term human being that they would like to spend time around. And then essentially on top of that, how to go about essentially developing one's life according to one's desired design, right? So living the life that you want to live as opposed to just living a life that is catering to the mainstream narrative of what someone who is a good human being should be doing, right? And the reason why I commend them is a lot is because the community was fucking like gangster ass based on like action taking. Like there was at the time there was nothing like it, and so the field of the tree of knowledge that was pertaining to that field in particular was in existence. So what people had to do was literally go out and actually test their things. Like if you had the going mantra was that if you didn't test out your idea, then you had nothing to say or nothing to contribute, because the only way by which you could come up with an actionable insight was to have had to experience it in field, in the wild, right? Now, to go back to this concept, they really played a monumental part, at least in my understanding and my development of how a typical successful night should go. Meaning what happens is if you start at 9, right, and you're going to 2, what typically happens is when people get to the venue, they're still just shaking off the cobwebs of the day, right? So it would look something like people are not really talkative. They're not really open to socializing. They're not even really open to like saying hello back, right? They're just there meandering about and they're just trying to get fucked up because the day was the day, whatever it is, and they just got off work, right? That's literally the mindset, right? So the way that they actually talk about it, if you want to put it in terms of like temperatures, like soldier or whatever, and like you see auras or like colors, is like going from cold to hot, right? So when people first get there, they're super fucking cold, right? They're really cold, but as the night progresses, they get really, 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 really fucking hot, like really hot, right? Around essentially 12 or so, what happens is you'll start seeing like a strong shift in the fucking environment. Everyone is more talkative. People are actually more rambunctious. They're more adventurous. They're more open to meeting people. They're more conducive to your end goals. If whether it's dating, whether it's making business connections, whether it's interacting with the opposite sex, whatever, and then taking it in an intimate or even ridiculously like playboy way, right? They're more open to that, right? And so what that means is your strategy for the night is to just survive. And what that means is to essentially consistently socialize in a way that's more in tune to that waveform, as opposed to just kind of burning out too quickly or doing things that are too on set too early in the night, where there is very little possibility or probability for success. Now, the cool thing that I love about him is, as I mentioned, the foundation is on taking action. So basically, the bricklayering of the foundation is based on creating a process for yourself of the night. What that means is you identify key activities that for you know to be the blueprint to success. Me, for example, for me to essentially meet people or to actually get the girl that I want, I have to meet a lot of people. So that means I have to just go up to them and say hello. So my process is to just greet people or to just find something unique or charming about a girl. Like I'll just flirt and like give random like comments, just making people feel good regardless of the results that it garnishes. Because to me, it's more about putting myself in that fucking Chris Brown fuckboy playboy mind frame than it is about getting any one particular girl. As time progresses, what happens is I am more in that unstifled nature. And so whenever there are key possibilities or key opportunities on which I can capitalize, I'm in a state of mind or in a mode of operation that I can most effectively take advantage and capitalize on them, right? And so that's kind of what you want to be doing. On top of that, too, to go back to the engineering thing now, if you're a composer, right, of music, or you're a producer, what that means is when the night begins, there is no need to actually be trying to quickly raise the energy level of the environment. What you want to do is have a slow burn approach, because all too often, and it's a mistake that I see on a consistent basis, is that because people like a particular song or particular sequencing, they'll just follow it like to the point of sounding deaf of ear, right? Like they're not reading the room. And so what happens is they'll play a song that's like raising the activity level that's raising the energy level, right? Really, really fucking quickly. But because we're not even warmed up yet, what happens is it's kind of like I liken it to when you essentially are tuning audio equipment and you try to push it past its operating range, right? There's just this cutoff that just happens because it's just not possible to sustain that exponential growth, right? So what you want to do is just have like incremental increases in energy, nice and slow, nice and slow, nice and slow, nice and slow, and then what you'll see is actually if you do it well, just like when you're like really seducing a girl, there's gonna be a point. I call them if you or we they call it escalation windows, meaning you'll be going nice and slow, and then all of a sudden you'll see like a nice blip, right? You'll be going, oh shit, I can take that. And what will happen is it will be happening organically. It won't be this thing that's like super fucking sudden, right? Hold on. It won't be this thing that's super fucking sudden, but rather you'll see it more as a gradual thing. And then in that, then that's another nuance that I wanted to cover. And this is really where expertise and wisdom fucking shines, right? Like an old ass man has seen and talked to many girls in the course of his life, and he's seen these blips, right? I mention it in passing in one of my notes. I refer to it as this is essentially beats per second, right? So we have RPM, right? Your RPM is just to cover some quick fundamental shit. So your RPM, think of it as okay. This is a pattern, right? This is one wave, right? And that is one pattern. The RPM in most equipment is essentially dealing with how many times per minute or per second do you want to see that pattern occurring over and over and over again. Your BPM or your BPS, or depending on whatever unit of time it uses, is essentially the measure of these blips. Basically, you want to think of it as imagine if there was a world where, imagine if every the only the only values in the world was 0 and 1, right? Meaning 0 there's nothing there, and 1 is there's a raise. So for example, going back to the concept I was just talking about, 0 is you're just kind of staying on a gradual slope, right? You're just staying on you're staying on the same energy level, right? 1 is you're increasing it by one quanta, right? So 0, you're staying on the same slope. 1, you're going higher, right? So this is 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. Sorry. Do that again. So this is 0, 0, 0. This is 1, 1, 1. This is 0, 0, 0, 0. This is 1. This is 1. This is 1. This is 1. This is 0, 0. You get the point, right? Now, in that, basically, if you want to go back to what I was talking about when you see a wave, what the BPS is doing is it's essentially counting the peak to peak, right? So basically, when you're changing the BPS or the BPM, you're essentially counting how many times do you want to see a peak. And if you remember how I just drew this, you're essentially changing the rate of change in your equipment. So you'll notice oftentimes when you're trying to sync two different tracks, the peak to peak might be different, and that tends to essentially, if you want to put it, require like a transitionary melody, right? Something that let's say for example, hold on, let me just save this. So put it in another way. Say for example, let's go back to that concept of cold and hot, right? You have one song which is cold, meaning it has a low energetic output, right, in terms of magnitude, right? The waveform isn't, let's say like the bar you have this is magnitude, right, how big the wave is, and this is time. The waveform is relatively small, right, and it's not oscillating that fast, so it'll essentially be a colder melody, having a colder or a slower root characteristic waveform, right? Now, let's say you have one that's like really hot, meaning the magnitude is both really high and it's oscillating extremely fast. It's gonna have a hotter melody. So the colder is like these are like your slow jams, your fucking cumbia like remixed, right? Remixed with like a reggaeton flow, or even like the fucking hot reggaeton like nightclub beats. Like you'll dance the shit like you're just grabbing a girl and like just fucking grinding your dick all over her ass type shit. And the fast shit, this is kind of like your super fucking technoed out beats. This is like the shit where like you're sweating the fuck off, like in a way where like you're like, right? So like if you have two songs who are extremely different on the spectrum of wavelength, what you'll need to do oftentimes is actually find a song that transitions that makes that quantizes, if you want to put it, that averages out the extreme or stark difference in BPM or BPS for each fucking piece of music, right? So the cool thing about a lot of equipment nowadays is they actually they started integrating this concept of visuals. So you'll have like colors tied to your equipment, to where now you can actually see based on color what is more resonant to what, right? And it makes the mixing and the synergizing of these radically different spectrums so much easier, because you're able to just more quickly access your intuition to even just like say, oh shit, like even though this is a hot beat and this is a hot beat and this is like a slow beat, the fact that they have a BPM that's like matching or close to matching at these particular sections, I can actually just fucking, I can add in some like voice shit and then chop and screw those particular parts of the songs together and make something super fucking unique and meaningful, right? And this is where fucking Steez really comes in. Now, going back to the concept of the night, right? Because this is really important. Let's talk about money, right? Like because honestly, this is what we're here for. All too often, what a lot of bars and venues will do is think that, hey, what you want to do is every 15 minutes fuck shit up so that people essentially go to the bar and drink. But the reality is that actually, the more you're just only focusing on producing a consistent good vibe that's naturally building with the flow of the fucking night, what will happen is, as opposed to having that bell-shaped distribution curve that I mentioned earlier, that inverted cosine waveform, if you will, what it will do is it'll just be building and 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 building all the way till the fucking end. And this is the difference between like a top fucking LA Las Vegas spot where they don't pay cover, but it's like packed all the fucking time, night after night after night after night after night, where everyone is like, it's like their sales go through the roof. They don't even, it's so fucking successful that like they don't even have enough inventory to match the demand, because they're like, it's like people are constantly just wanting to give them money. Why? Because we all know that you're more remembered by how you make people feel than by what you tell them, right? It's one thing to tell them, hey, spend $20 here and you're going to have a premium experience. But it's another thing altogether to actually give them a stellar experience, actually make them feel like they're welcome there, to actually make them feel like they're celebrated there, to actually make them feel like, oh shit, this is a place where the girls can take their shoes off and be at ease in the environment, where the girls don't feel judged to act in their fucking freaky selves without having whoever or whatever giving them weird looks, or to even have the boys feel like they can dance and like let off that like unfiltered and stifled stuff and actually talk to people without even the need of alcohol because they just feel comfortable there, right? This is the fucking difference between those spots and places that literally have everything in place but yet fail so miserably. It is all about the fucking vibe. And you, as like a composer, an asset to building this great night, you have to be so cognizant of that. And that's kind of why I harped at length about the importance of reading the room. I think all too often it's a misnomer because people think that reading the room means, oh, you're playing music that people want to hear, right? Like if you're with your Mexican buddies, you're playing reggaeton, et cetera, et cetera. If you're with like your black friends, you're playing hip hop and blah blah blah. And if you're with like your country friends, you're playing like country. But no, it's actually just playing music that makes people feel good. We all know what being like feeling good is on a universal level, and we all know what sounds like sonically awesome on a universal level. It's not something that's just specific to a genre or a demographic, but it's all encompassing. So you're actually at an advantage if you can play hip hop to your country friends and cumbia to your fucking hip hop friends, or metal to your black friends, right? Because the repertoire for what is melodically possible is increased by the exposure to a unique symphony every single time it's introduced. So if you become that guy that's like introducing people to cool new shit, you're actually at a better negotiation position going forward for everyone because it's actually providing an asset that is impacting their life on like a really dramatic way. How many of us is constantly like, hey, I'd like to hear some cool shit other than what I'm currently hearing? Hands up. I'm pretty sure that's like everyone who's listening to this right now. So if you can become that thing, that is literally one precise way of becoming an asset, right? Like it's not just about like, hey, I like to just like I like to just like be a people pleaser, or I like to just like do everything that the venue hire or whoever my employer told me to do, but I actually want to contribute to their financial success, right? And in the recognition of that higher level purpose, you have to understand that, like, on some level, you have to take ownership of the fact that your position grants you a level of expertise. And on top of that, with that creative freedom, right, you have to unchain yourself because that is truly and honestly the only way by which you can actually make most effective use of the position, right? Now, if you're really fucking savvy, you'll understand that, like, up until now, I've just been talking about it in the context of, like, a nightclub. But everything that I've said actually translates to anything to do with the engineering of airways. So this is just the news as well, the fifth estate, right? It's not just about constantly raising the fucking excitement of people, whether it's negatively using negs like catchy clickbait, or positively by just highlighting things that your friends or your boys have done. But it's all encompassing because every life form is highly, highly attuned to the desire of achieving enlightenment. And so if your news board, the vehicle that is the dissemination of information by which people may or may not be impacted by, can actually align itself to the purpose of facilitating people's life, or more importantly, people's development, then this fucking characteristic waveform will highly be applicable as well, right? This is the same concept for a radio station. Throughout the day, most people are in the morning, when people are going to work. Sometimes they turn on the radio and they want to hear things that are impactful to their being, right? And this is also another fucking a solid tip to people thinking about maybe even pursuing those sorts of advertising channels, as opposed to just, hey, this is me, this is my business, this is what I do, contact me at this number. Why don't you just like spend those 30 minutes, pay to actually just provide evergreen content to people and Illuminati them, like straight up just like give them the fucking game, right? If like there was a 30 to a minute fucking radio piece or radio ad piece on like just giving game to people in a way that's like literally asking nothing in return, and then at the end even saying, hey, if you're interested in this, either call in or drop your number. But I guarantee you the calls would go, the response rate would go through the roof, because it's like, who does that, first of all? And then on top of that, holy shit, this shit actually fucking changed my life. This shit is actually helping me. It's not just like bombarding me with sales or forcing me to be aware of some shit that I probably don't even need, right? But it's literally placing yourself in the position of the grandfather or the mother or the father who is just thinking about their son, their child, their brother, their nephew, their relative, as much as they're thinking about themselves, wanting the best for them, as much as they want the best for themselves, and thus leaving the fucking blueprint, creating the footprint to where, if ever the case may be that they need help in any particular aspect of their life, that they themselves are currently crushing it, and they themselves have gone through their sheer wealth of experience of just having gone through a lot of shit and being alive for such a long time, then they will have the pathway by which they can access the library, if you want, the Akashic records. That is everything that that person knows. And this, my friends, is the game changer that is content. And why you hear a lot of prominent fucking thought leaders like Gary Vaynerchuk or fucking RSD, right, talking about just how important it is to just express yourself in a way where you're just helping people first and not trying to sell, because givers gain. And the more you know, the better it is for the whole world to fucking know those things. Because when we all elevate together, we're able to help one another essentially unlock those hidden abilities and tap into the beyond, right? There was a lot more that I wanted to touch on, just in the sense that this is essentially how collaboration really becomes fruitful and meaningful, where it's no longer just this thing where we're trying to get by, but it becomes something fun that we all collectively pull in together to create. And it just makes everything that goes forth in that endeavor so much more refreshing and so much more pleasing to be a part of, right? And so when you have that in mind, that's kind of why this entire series, if you think about it, is more secondary to my other ones, because it's all of a mindset first, right? The mindset has to be fucking golden for the actions to be game-changing. And if you can align, then that's kind of why I always harp on aligning yourself to that higher level fucking vision and crafting that mission statement and purpose for everything that you do. Because the intentionality of what it is that you're trying to accomplish will direct the day-to-day, the moment-to-moment, the microsecond to microsecond decision-making heuristics that guide you through your journey. So I hope you guys have been following me, because it's kind of a lot. I was really trying to hold back because like this has a lot of like global applications. Like people here, this is the basis behind quantization, for example, where you have different waveforms coming together and you're trying to come up with one waveform that actively and accurately represents what adding them together would look like in a way that can be meaningful to the medium that you're trying to communicate or essentially translate or transfer that added waveform together. It's the basis behind so many things, and I just hope that like my English didn't fail me and that you were able to follow me all throughout this. So please take the time to really dissect what it is that I'm saying, because I truly believe this can have an incredible fucking impact for you and your career. Anyways, I think I'm going to stop there just because I feel like strategically for the betterment of your understanding and for the contribution of the other values provided by the other contents that I've had in mind that I wanted to disseminate that were somewhere similar to this, it will probably just make sense too. Hope you guys get something out of this, and as always, swag the fuck out.